Picture this, it's 2016. You're working at one of the largest biopharma equipment manufacturers and consumable supply companies in the world. And you've just had what might be one of the most ridiculous ideas of your career, across a career already filled with many innovative ideas. What if we could put tiny submersible drones inside of single-use bioreactor and mixing bags for making medicines? What if we can turn every boring plastic single-use bag into an infinitely configurable smart factory? Your colleagues think you're crazy. Your boss raises an eyebrow. Now, I need to put this into perspective. My colleagues and bosses already knew that I was crazy with my other inventions at the time. Between single-use biological 3D printing, stuffing an entire miniaturized pharmaceutical manufacturing facility into aseptically connectable single-use bags, a boatload of various augmented reality technologies, infrared LEDs for sensor communications with filters, film-based blowout preventers on single-use bags, audio devices that can detect equipment issues through sound and also use prime number audio signals to provide spatial awareness to physical locations and the sequencing of components, unhackable communication methods for software updates, and so much more. This level of crazy just stepped it up to the next level. I always wondered when I could potentially get away with being that crazy brilliant person at a company that could just show up to work in their pajamas and slippers. But I would be so important to the future of the company, they would just let me get away with it. So anyways, you eventually file the patent. Fast forward, that patent finally gets approved. More than 8 years after you left the company and moved on to something completely different. That's just a wonderfully glacial world of intellectual property, where good ideas go to hibernate longer than bears. Welcome to Apprentice.io's Industry Insight. I'm Frank Maggiore, and today we're diving deep into U.S. Patent 1238495, Insertable Components for Single-Use Containers. This isn't just any patent, this is potentially the future of how we make life-saving medicines, and it all started with a single question. What if we can make our single-use containers smarter and more flexible? But here's the kicker. While this patent was gathering dust in some USPTO filing cabinet, the biotech industry was desperately crying out for exactly this kind of innovation. Single-use bioreactors have taken over the industry, but they had one massive problem. They are still made manually by operators performing welds on each of the bag seals. This is why submitting orders could come with 6 to 8 month lead times or even more. In a world of automation and just-in-time manufacturing, it is insane to me that we are still making these critical consumables by hand. Today, we're going to explore how submersible drone technology could revolutionize everything from cancer treatments to cultivated meat, and what this potentially means for the future of manufacturing. Alright, let's decode this patent before your eyes glaze over. Don't worry, I'll translate the patent legalese into human speak. At its core, this patent describes something that sounds like science fiction, but is some pretty brilliant engineering, if I do say so myself. Insertable components that can transform any dumb single-use bag into an intelligent, autonomous manufacturing system. Think of it this way. Right now, when pharmaceutical companies make biologics, think like cancer immunotherapies or COVID vaccines, they use massive plastic bags called single-use technologies for mixing and growing cells in bioreactors. They're basically highly sophisticated plastic bags with lots of technology integrated directly into them. We would always be questioned by custom officials on why they were labeled with the plastic bag harmonized import codes. But they were so expensive, costing tens of thousands of dollars each, they thought we were trying to scam the tariff schedule somehow. We would just say that they were medical bags and they would let them go through. This patent provides something that is exceedingly rare in the pharmaceutical industry, a proprietary mixing technology. Some companies can build an entire product portfolio around a proprietary mixing technology. I remember over my years in the pharmaceutical industry, walking the conference halls like Interfax and seeing different vendors with some weird mixing technologies, like PBS Biotech System, which looks like a hamster wheel, or some companies had mixers that look like offset canoe paddles, or even bioreactors that use orbital shakers and baffles like Kuhner's orb shakes. And this doesn't even touch on the different collapsible impellers or the magnetically levitating impellers from Levtech. So, I guess I'm now part of the pantheon of inventors with my own mixing technology under my belt. Another major point is how this invention overcomes other limitations with current bioreactor designs. Traditional bioreactors have maybe 1 or 2 sensor points. Imagine trying to understand what's happening in a 2,000 liter swimming pool by only looking at one single point of measurement. That's basically how we've operated using these single-use bags as mixing vessels. This becomes even more pronounced when you see those giant ABEC 4,000-liter single-use bioreactor bags at conferences. The larger the volume, the more points of testing you're going to require. This patent changes everything. The key innovation is what the patent calls positioning units with dynamic elements, but I like to think of them as bioreactor submersible drones. These little devices can swim around inside your sterile bag, equipped with impellers or rudders for movement and positioning, sensors for monitoring, and autonomous control systems that make decisions without any human intervention. These different submersible devices, or swarms, could potentially be reusable with swappable sensor packages where they are recovered at the end of the bioreactor batch run, fully recharged, replaced any consumable components or sensors, add in new modular sensor packages if necessary, re-sterilize with vaporized hydrogen peroxide, VHP, and stick them back into the next batch of single-use bags through aseptic connections. This would help reduce the overall waste and make potential recycling efforts easier. One other key point to make is since you are moving a lot of the technology into the bag through the insertable components, you may not require the extensive control systems that now come with bioreactors and mixing units. You could just put the single-use bags into a metal or plastic sleeve and then utilize a mobile device or cloud computer to operate the primary functions of the bioreactor. You may still require external pumps or other items, but you have the possibility of greatly reducing the cost for the systems and making them more accessible globally to different parts of the world or even students to work on, instead of needing to buy major controller systems in the tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. The patent includes 16 active claims. The most important claims cover the following. Claim 1 is the basic concept behind the insertable components that can be stuffed into single-use bags and perform specific tasks autonomously. This is the foundation that everything else is built upon. Claims 2 to 7 are the infrastructure components, how to use aseptic connectors to insert the submersible units, how the communication systems work, what are the internal anchoring and attachment mechanisms to attach to the inside of the bag, basically all the plumbing that makes this concept work in the real world. Claims 8 through 12 are the positioning magic, the buoyancy devices, the static elements, and the autonomous navigation inside of the bags. This is where the submarine analogy really kicks in. Claims 13 to 16 are all about the sterilization wizardry, how to utilize separate sterilization methods for bags and components, the potentially reusable elements, and the compartmentalization design. This addresses one of the biggest challenges in biotech. How do you keep things sterile while making them smart? Here's what makes this brilliant. Instead of designing hundreds of specialized bags for different processes, you design one standardized bag for each size and infinite configurations of insertable components. It's like the difference between buying a different car for every trip versus buying one car and different accessories. One bag, infinite possibilities. To understand why this patent matters, we need to talk about the current state of biomanufacturing. Let's start with the single-point sensor problem. Imagine you're a chef making soup for 500 people, but you can only taste it from one tiny corner of the pot. That's essentially how we make most biologics today. We stick one sensor into a massive bag and hope it represents what's happening everywhere else. And in reality, it really doesn't. In large bioreactors, we're talking 500 to 2,000 liters, you get what scientists call gradients. The pH might be perfect at the sensor location, but completely wrong just a few feet away. The temperature could be ideal at the top, but too cold at the bottom, depending on how the heating and cooling jackets are configured. Cell density could be perfect in the middle, but terrible near the walls. These gradients can kill batches, waste millions of dollars, and delay life-saving treatments. Then there's the scheduling crunch, adding to the bioreactor issues. When you're making monoclonal antibodies for immunotherapies or other cancer treatments, capacities are limited to such a degree that if a batch fails, it may be months before you're able to get back to manufacturing more. Some of these processes are scheduled years in advance, so if you miss your window, it's possible that the available supplies remain low until more can be made, sometimes months or even years later. It means losing months of work, millions of dollars in materials, and potentially delaying treatment for desperate patients. But the manual manufacturing and configuration nightmare might be even worse. Bags are manufactured by hand, where a human operator makes each of the seam welds and builds each bag manually. This is because there are generally so many different types of bags, and everyone is looking for something different. Some customers may require custom attachments or positions for their tubing and sensor ports. They may require additional aseptic connectors or vent filters to prevent clogging or to serve as backups. Right now, if you want to make a different product, you need a completely different bag design. Want to add extra sensors? New bag. Need different mixing patterns? New bag. Want to sample at multiple points? You guessed it, new bag. That means that pharmaceutical companies have warehouses full of different bag designs, each optimized for one specific process. It's like having a different kitchen for every recipe you want to cook. The complexity is staggering, the costs are enormous, and the flexibility is non-existent. And all these bags come pre-sterilized with expiration dates. So if a process gets delayed and you pass your sterilization expiration date, you throw out all the materials, costing companies millions of dollars at the end of every year and being extraordinarily wasteful. And here's the kicker. The industry desperately wants this flexibility. Single-use systems have taken over biotech manufacturing because they're faster to set up, easier to validate, and allow for multi-product facilities using the same equipment and eliminating cross-contamination risks. But they've sacrificed intelligence for convenience. It's like trading your smartphone for a rotary phone just because the rotary phone is easier to clean. In the past, you built out a facility around a single drug product. You had giant stainless steel bioreactors. You hard-piped everything. And you had clean steam systems in a utility room that looked like it belonged on a tanker ship, using an ungodly amount of energy to generate enough clean steam for the entire facility. But it was very much an automated process. You pressed a button on a PLC and your entire process just worked. You essentially had an automated transmission for pharma processing. But if you were looking to change your drug or process, you might as well demolish the entire facility and start over. Also, it took around 2 years or more after building the facility to validate and commission the clean steam and clean in place systems to ensure that there is no cross-contamination between batches with stainless steel bioreactors. Single-use technology solved most of this, but you reverted to more of a manual transmission with a lot more manual manipulations and increased human errors. The benefits, though, were enormous. Cleaning validation? Just take out the previous single-use plastic bag and replace it with a new one. Cleaning validation complete. That one process alone removed around 2 years of validation and commissioning time. Multi-product facilities, you can use the same bioreactors and processing equipment, but just change out the single-use bag and customize it for your new process. No need to build an entire clean steam process for the facility, saving on building costs and the tremendous energy use. They performed a number of studies showing that single-use bags use significantly less energy compared to traditional stainless steel bioreactors and vessels because of the large amount of energy needed to clean them after each run. It may seem counterintuitive since you're throwing out the plastic bags, but that also contributes to more plastic waste, which is difficult for recycling because it's generally considered as hazardous medical waste in most jurisdictions. There are some pilot programs to help with the recycling process for these specific bags, and large companies have their own internal efforts underway. Monoclonal antibodies, immunotherapies, and cell and gene therapies are markets that are all exploding right now. We're talking about cancer treatments, treatments for rare diseases with smaller population sizes, and revolutionary new approaches to medicine, all of which contribute to the multi-product facilities that we're seeing now. But these therapies require unprecedented flexibility in manufacturing. You can't mass produce these medicines with inflexible equipment. Scale up is another nightmare. When you develop a process in a 5-liter bag and want to manufacture it at the 2,000-liter scale, everything changes. The mixing patterns, heat transfer, mass transfer, it's like trying to scale up a campfire recipe to feed an entire city. Current technology requires months of optimization and tons of expensive trial and error experiments. This patent addresses all of these problems with one elegant solution. Make the container smart, not just sterile. Now let's talk about where this technology gets really exciting. We're not just talking about incremental improvements, we're talking about completely new capabilities that were impossible before. First up, submersible drone applications. Picture this, instead of one lonely sensor sitting in the corner of your bioreactor, you have a swarm of autonomous drones swimming around like mini submarines. Each submersible drone is equipped with sensors, processing power, and the ability to communicate with its neighbors. These drones can create real-time 3D maps of your entire bioreactor. They can detect hotspots, cold spots, dead zones, and regions of optimal cell growth. More importantly, they can respond to what they find. If one drone detects low oxygen in a corner, it can swim over there and start aerating. If another detects high cell density in one area, it can adjust the mixing parameters to distribute the cells more evenly. For dynamic sampling, this is a game changer. Right now, if you want to sample your bioreactor, you need to stop the process, break sterility barriers, and hope your single sample point represents the entire batch. With drone technology, you can sample continuously from multiple locations without ever interrupting the process or risking potential contamination. The swarm sensing capabilities become absolutely critical when you scale up to those massive 2,000 or even 4,000 liter bags. But a coordinated swarm of sensor drones can monitor the entire volume in real time, automatically adjusting process parameters to maintain optimal conditions everywhere. Then we have smart bag transformations. Imagine ordering a bioreactor with several aseptic connection points. Each aseptic connection can lead into an infinitely configurable tubing set to be able to connect to whatever you want. Base bag, check. Add sterile sampling system, check. Include pH monitoring swarm, check. Want extra mixing drones for viscous fluids? Just add it to the cart. The plug-and-play sensor arrays are revolutionary. Instead of designing custom sensor integration for every new process, you just insert the sensors that you need. Making a new vaccine? Add the components optimized for viral production. Developing a cell therapy? Insert the cell monitoring suite. Each component is pre-sterilized, pre-validated, and ready to go. Mix-on-demand configurations solve another huge problem. Different products need different mixing patterns. Some need gentle stirring, and others need aggressive agitation. And some need specific flow patterns to prevent cell damage. Instead of designing different bags for different mixing requirements, you just program different drone behaviors. It's like having an infinitely reconfigurable mixer that adapts to exactly what your product needs. But here's where it gets really sci-fi. Automated process optimization. The drones don't just monitor, they learn. They can detect when conditions are becoming suboptimal and automatically adjust before problems occur. They can optimize mixing patterns in real time based on actual cell behavior. They can even communicate with cloud-based AI systems to continuously improve performance across all manufacturing sites. Imagine a world where your bioreactors get smarter with every batch, where process optimization happens automatically, and where manufacturing problems are prevented rather than detected. That's not just efficiency, that's a fundamental transformation in how we make medicines. Now here's where things get really interesting, and where my current company, Apprentice.io, comes into play. This patent just isn't about hardware, it's about creating an entirely new ecosystem where cloud-based manufacturing execution systems can orchestrate these insertable components like a conductor leading a symphony. Let me paint you a picture of how this works with modern cloud MES platforms like our Tempo Manufacturing Cloud. Imagine you're starting a new batch of cell therapy. Instead of manually configuring sensors and hoping for the best, your MES receives the batch record digitally, automatically determines what insertable components are needed, and sends wireless instructions to deploy the right configuration. The real-time orchestration capabilities are mind-blowing. Your cloud MES would be able to simultaneously monitor data from dozens of sensor drones across multiple bioreactors, automatically adjusting process parameters based on real-time conditions. If a drone detects a temperature spike in a bioreactor, the MES can instantly command that bioreactor to increase cooling in that zone, while alerting other bioreactors to be on the lookout for similar conditions. Digital twin synchronization takes us to the next level. Every physical drone has a digital counterpart in the cloud that predicts behavior, optimizes performance, and learns from outcomes. When your physical bioreactor is running, your digital twin is simultaneously running thousands of virtual scenarios, predicting potential problems hours before they actually occur. But here's the really cool part: automated recipe execution. In traditional manufacturing, operators follow paper procedures or digital checklists. With smart insertable components connected to cloud MES, the system can execute procedures automatically. AI and advanced analytics transform this from reactive to predictive manufacturing. Machine learning algorithms can analyze patterns across thousands of batches, identifying subtle indicators that predict batch success or failures. Predictive maintenance becomes incredibly sophisticated when your sensors are mobile. Instead of fixed sensors that might miss developing problems, mobile drones can patrol critical areas, detecting early signs of equipment failure or process deviation. They can literally swim over to investigate unusual vibrations or temperature patterns that stationary sensors might miss. Process optimization through machine learning happens continuously in the background. Every time a drone makes a measurement or adjustment, that data feeds into machine learning models that are constantly being optimized for better yields, faster processing, and higher quality. The system learns not just from individual batches, but from collective experience across all manufacturing sites globally. Quality by design implementation becomes truly dynamic. Instead of static control strategies defined during development, you can have adaptive control that responds to actual process conditions. The system can automatically adjust critical process parameters while staying within validated design spaces, optimizing performance while maintaining regulatory compliance. The integration possibilities are endless. These drones can communicate with environmental monitoring systems, raw material tracking systems, quality management systems, and regulatory reporting platforms. They can create a seamless digital thread from raw materials to finished product with complete traceability and real-time visibility into every aspect of manufacturing. While this patent emerged from the pharmaceutical world, the applications extend far beyond medicine, and frankly, some of the most exciting opportunities might be in industries that have nothing to do with treating diseases. Let's start with cultivated meat production. If you thought making cancer therapies was complex, try growing a steak in a bioreactor. Cell culture meat requires precise control of multiple cell types and complex nutrient gradients. These cells may be extracted and combined using a 3D printer and extruded in different sequences to provide the structure and the mouthfeel of meat products, from ground meats and burgers all the way up to complex steaks. These 3D printed constructs may need to spend extra time in bioreactors to allow the cells to develop along their scaffolding. Traditional single-point sensing is completely inadequate for this type of challenge. Imagine insertable drones that can monitor the development of muscle fibers, fat distribution, and tissue architecture in real time. They can automatically adjust growth factors, optimize nutrient delivery, and even guide the physical arrangement of cells to create the perfect marbling patterns. Precision fermentation for alternative proteins represents another massive opportunity. Companies are engineering microorganisms to produce everything from egg whites to dairy proteins without animals. These processes require incredibly precise control of metabolic pathways, and traditional monitoring is like trying to conduct an orchestra while wearing blindfolds and earplugs. Insertable sensor networks could monitor metabolic activity at multiple locations simultaneously, optimize nutrient delivery for maximum protein production, detect contamination and potentially isolate that contamination, or metabolic shifts before they ruin the entire batch. We're talking about making food production as precise and as controlled as pharmaceutical manufacturing. Biofuel and sustainable chemical manufacturing could also be revolutionized. Whether you're making ethanol from algae or biodegradable plastics from engineered bacteria, the principles are the same. You need precise control of biological processes in large-scale reactors. Mobile sensor networks could optimize production efficiency, reduce waste, and improve yield in ways that static monitoring simply cannot achieve. The adjacent technologies are where things get really sci-fi. Microfluidics integrations could create networks of tiny drones that operate at microscopic scales, monitoring and controlling processes at the cellular level. Organ-on-a-chip platforms could benefit from mobile monitoring systems that track tissue development and drug responses across entire artificial organs. Here's a wild one: space biomanufacturing. Companies like Varda Space Industries and space agencies like NASA are actively researching biological manufacturing in microgravity environments. Traditional Earth-based monitoring assumes gravity-driven mixing and settling patterns. In space, you need completely different approaches to monitoring and control. Mobile, autonomous sensor networks that don't rely on gravitational references could be essential for manufacturing pharmaceuticals or food during long-duration space missions. The beauty of this patent is that it creates a platform technology. Just like how smartphones enabled thousands of applications nobody initially envisioned, smart insertable components into single-use bags could enable manufacturing applications we haven't even thought of yet. Any industry that uses large-scale biological processes, from environmental remediation to materials production, could benefit from this fundamental shift from static to dynamic monitoring and control. Alright, let's geek out for a minute and dive into the really clever engineering that makes all this possible. Fair warning, we're about to get technical, but I promise it's cooler than it sounds. The buoyancy-based positioning system, covered in claims 9 and 10, are pure genius. Instead of trying to build tiny motors and propulsion systems that work in sterile biological media, you can leverage the motion already occurring from the central mixing unit. By filling compartments with compressed gas, the drones can control their buoyancy and position themselves at specific depths in the bioreactor. It's like a submarine ballast system, but at a smaller scale. They can also change direction by steering the rudders to get them into the right position at the right times. Here's why this matters. Biological processes often have vertical stratification. Cells might settle at the bottom, nutrients might concentrate at certain levels, and gas exchange happens primarily at the surface. By controlling buoyancy, these drones can position themselves exactly where they need to be for optimal monitoring or intervention. The dual sterilization methods, detailed in claims 13 through 15, solve one of the biggest technical challenges in biotech. The single-use bags are typically sterilized using gamma irradiation, although X-ray radiation is now being used, which is great for plastics, but terrible for electronics. The insertable components, on the other hand, can be sterilized using chemical methods like vaporized hydrogen peroxide, which don't damage sensitive electronics, but might not be able to penetrate bag materials effectively. By allowing separate sterilization methods, the system gives you the best of both worlds. The bags can be mass-produced and gamma-sterilized for reliability, while the smart components can be sterilized using methods that preserve their functionality and potential reusability. Then they're combined aseptically, maintaining sterility while creating intelligent systems. The wireless power and communication systems are where modern technology really shines. These drones don't have power cords or data cables trailing behind them. Instead, they use wireless power transfer, similar to how your phone charges on a wireless pad, and communicate using short-range wireless protocols that work reliably in biological media. This wireless architecture solves multiple problems simultaneously. No cables means no additional sterility barriers, no risk of cable failure, and complete freedom of movement. The drones can be inserted through standard aseptic connectors and operate completely independently once deployed. The manufacturing implications are staggering. The patent explicitly describes robotic assembly capabilities, meaning the bag components, which are currently made manually, can now be manufactured and deployed using automated systems. Imagine a near-term future where single-use bioreactor bags are assembled and welded by robots quickly and efficiently. Then the intelligent components and configurability are aseptically added separately. This should lead to bag standardization for each size, reduce the cost to manufacture dramatically, while still allowing for configurability, all while providing a new sensor platform for advancing the state-of-the-art sensor technologies, which could be added rapidly. Gamma sterilization resilience requires serious materials engineering. The electronics, sensors, and mechanical components would all need to be designed to survive radiation doses that would be lethal to humans. This would mean selecting special semiconductor materials, radiation-hardened electronics, and robust mechanical designs that maintain functionality after sterilization. This is why we use features like optical sensors and then add the equipment externally to the single-use bags for the actual measurements, because electronics don't fare well with gamma radiation. So unlike gamma radiation making the Hulk smash, it's more like just making the equipment crash. The modular component architecture is perhaps the most important technical innovation. Instead of creating monolithic devices that do everything, the system is designed as interchangeable modules. Need different sensors? Swap the sensor module. Need different mixing patterns? Change the impeller module. This modularity enables infinite customization while maintaining manufacturing efficiency. This technical approach creates something unprecedented in biotech. Truly intelligent, autonomous manufacturing systems that maintain the sterility and safety requirements of pharmaceutical production while adding capabilities that were previously impossible. So where does all this lead us? I'm no longer at Sartorius, and I haven't been for some time. I have no control over how the future of this technology will unfold. I can only offer advice. This patent is active until 2043, so that gives a really long time to produce something wonderful from it. And I hope my invention does lead to some good in the world, where it can help real patients and not just sit there on the shelf protecting other equipment competitors from doing the same. Let me paint you a picture of what biomanufacturing could look like in the next few years if this technology reaches its full potential. Picture fully autonomous biofactories where human operators are coordinators, not manual laborers. Instead of people standing next to bioreactors, constantly checking sensor readings and making adjustments, you have intelligent systems that monitor, analyze, and optimize processes in real time. Operators become orchestra conductors, overseeing multiple autonomous processes simultaneously, while the smart systems handle the minute-by-minute decisions. These aren't just individual smart bioreactors, we're talking about distributed manufacturing networks. Imagine a world where new personalized cancer therapy can be developed at a research center in Boston. The recipe can be digitally transmitted to manufacturing sites globally, and smart insertable components can automatically configure local bioreactors to produce that specific therapy. The physical infrastructure becomes standardized while the intelligence becomes infinitely customizable. This will help enable personalized medicine at scale in ways we can barely imagine today. Instead of one-size-fits-all blockbuster drugs, we could have therapies tailored to individual patients or to small groups of patients manufactured on demand at regional facilities. The smart components would automatically adjust process parameters for each patient's specific requirements, making truly personalized medicines more economically viable. The environmental implications are profound as well. When manufacturing becomes more efficient, predictable, and optimized, we waste fewer resources. Failed batches become rare, energy consumption decreases, raw material usage becomes more efficient. We're not just talking about better medicine, we're talking about sustainable manufacturing that minimizes environmental impact while maximizing therapeutic benefits. But here's my message of hope. This technology democratizes advanced manufacturing. Right now, only the biggest pharmaceutical companies can afford the most sophisticated manufacturing technologies. But when intelligence comes from software and insertable components rather than massive custom equipment, smaller companies, research institutions, and even developing countries can access world-class manufacturing capabilities. Imagine medical schools in developing areas of the world using bioreactors with smart components to manufacture treatments locally. Picture biotech startups configuring production systems through software rather than building custom facilities. Think about research institutions rapidly prototyping new therapies without massive capital investments. This patent represents a fundamental shift from hardware-centric to software-centric manufacturing. The call to action is clear, and it's directed at 3 different audiences. For manufacturers, I'm hoping Sartorius is able to do something with this patent now that it was finally approved. I hope they're able to embrace the modularity and intelligence it can bring to the industry. Stop thinking about custom single-use bags for every process and start thinking about standardized bag platforms with infinite configurability. The future belongs to companies that can adapt quickly to changing requirements, not those that can build the most specialized equipment. For innovators and entrepreneurs, build on this foundation. This patent creates a platform for innovation that we're only beginning to explore. Whether you're developing new sensor technologies, AI algorithms for process optimization, or novel applications in adjacent industries, the opportunities are limitless. For everyone else, understand that the future of manufacturing is configurable, intelligent, and sustainable. The medicines that will save lives in the coming decades, the foods that will feed a growing planet, and the materials that will power a sustainable economy, they'll all be made using technologies that adapt, learn, and optimize automatically. This isn't just about one patent or one company. This is about a fundamental transformation in how we make the things that matter the most. From life-saving medicines to sustainable foods to revolutionary materials, the future is autonomous, intelligent, and infinitely adaptable. The 8-year journey from filing to approval might seem frustrating, but it gave the world time to catch up to this vision. The infrastructure is now ready. The AI is mature enough. The market is desperate for this kind of flexibility. The revolution in smart manufacturing isn't coming. It's already here. The question isn't whether this technology will transform how we make medicine and materials. The question is how quickly we can make it happen, and whether we'll have the wisdom to use these capabilities to build a better, more sustainable, and more equitable world. The future is insertable, configurable, and absolutely brilliant. Sometimes it takes a winding path and significantly more time than you initially planned. But life is about that journey and the hardships along the way to make those hard-fought victories all the sweeter. In an industry where precision and compliance are paramount, Apprentice's Tempo platform offers a cutting-edge manufacturing execution system solution. It's cloud-based, mobile-first, operator-centric, with the most intuitive UI in the industry, making it perfect for today's dynamic pharmaceutical manufacturing environments and for the production of the world's most complex drug products. Whether you're working on groundbreaking cell and gene therapies, biologics, or small molecules, Tempo provides a fully validated MES system that's both powerful and easy to use. It streamlines your processes, ensures compliance, and adapts to your specific manufacturing needs. So get off of paper batch records and discover how Apprentice's Tempo Manufacturing Cloud can transform your operations by visiting us at apprentice.io. Attention industry professionals, revolutionize your manufacturing process with the Apprentice Tempo Manufacturing Cloud, a manufacturing execution system built to streamline your operations, boost efficiency, and ensure compliance all in one powerful platform. Experience the future of manufacturing with our free 30-day trial. Scan the QR code on your screen now to unlock a world of innovation. Don't just keep pace, set the tempo as an industry leader with Apprentice. That's all for Apprentice.io's Industry Insights. I'm Frank Maggiore. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for notifications when new episodes drop. Please comment on if you have any additional topics you would like for me to cover in this space, and we'll see you next week for more industry insights.